Okay, I think we can start. It's 4 sharp. So thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. Those of you in China, good afternoon. Those of you joining from Europe, good morning. Today I'll be the host as well as the presenter. And also another main presenter we have is also Richard. So basically we'll be covering the wine and spirits China consumer trends today. The main agenda we have is first will be the wine and spirits market overview, followed up by wine consumption trends, whiskey and brandy consumption trends, and domestic competitors, basically Baijiu. And then lastly, Q&A, if we have enough time. Before we go into the main topic, I'll do a quick intro of myself, and then Richard, you can introduce yourself as well. So, hi everyone, my name is Min. I'm Research Director at Daxue Consulting. We are a market research strategic consulting firm based in China. I've been in China for more than 10 years now. Within consulting, I have about 10 years experience overall. Some of the major projects we oversee at our firm is go-to-market strategy, market expansion strategy, as well as doing competitor analysis, consumer research, and so on and so on. So yeah, the insights today has been a collaboration between us and Sopexa, where Richard is from. Yeah, and I think Richard, you can quickly introduce yourself as well.
Sure, thanks, Min. Hi, everyone. So my name is Richard. I'm a managing director at Sopexa China. So we are a dedicated agency for food and beverage. We dedicate our work to find solutions for our clients for imported products to penetrate the local market, organizing actions and strategic communications through events, public relation, digital, activation of shopper marketing, whether it is online and offline. Our aim is to trigger the product and the brand within the market. So on my side, I've been living in China for 4 years, but living in Asia for 10 years. And I've been working with many brands in wine and spirits, from cognac to whiskey, vodka, and also, of course, wines.
Thank you, Richard. So throughout the agenda, we'll be going back and forth between Min, myself, and Richard. So there'll be some switching screens in between. So yeah, okay. All right. So before we go into all the topics of wine, spirits, and so on, we would like to give you a general overview of the alcohol market in China. So China's alcohol consumption mostly revolves around beer and Baijiu. And the drinks revenue, alcoholic drinks revenue is increasing, with spirits, beer, and wine being the top 3 revenue generating segments. And don't be mistaken by the spirits here. We're not really mostly talking about Western spirits. Basically, Baijiu takes the most of the market share when it comes to spirits. As you can see here, interestingly, brandy and whiskey are the 2 Western spirit segments that is dominating when we're looking at the Western part. In terms of wine, still wine is also taking the most revenue share compared to fortified wine and sparkling wine. As for the consumer segment, I think it's not covered in this report, but when we're looking at Asia, China is top 4 most consuming alcohol, let's not say alcoholics, but the most alcohol consuming countries in Asia. First is South Korea, second is Vietnam, third is Thailand, just for your interest. We try to look at, in terms of demographics, who are the main consumers and where are these people located. So I think this is no big difference to anywhere else in Asia. Basically, young consumers are driving the Chinese alcohol market. So definitely Generation Z. In terms of top 10 bottled wine consuming provinces by value. So it's no surprise that the provinces and regions from the coastal show the highest consumption. You can see Guangdong, Shanghai, Beijing, Jiangsu, and Zhejiang. They're one of the top 5s. Also, what is interesting is that female consumers are the growing demographic. And also ready-to-drink cocktails are also a growing trend in China. And for China to try to get more younger generation to drink, this is a trend we noted from a lot of Baijiu traditional companies that they're trying to initiate more low alcohol, fruity, and unique drinks that are more with a lower alcohol percentage that can be easily accessed. Also, lastly, one more interesting fact is that in terms of location, younger consumers in Tier 4 cities are showing the highest growth rate. So you can see that most of the younger people in the Tier 1, 2, 3 cities are already showing a high growth. So where's the most growth coming from? It will be the Tier 4 cities or even lower levels. All right. And when we look at Chinese imports, I think it's no surprise that European wines and brandies dominate Chinese imports. France is the largest exporter to China, and no surprise again, because you can imagine when it comes to wine or brandy, especially from the region of Cognac. Cognacs are the top exported wine and spirits to the Chinese market. UK was top 2, so you could imagine, well, basically Scotch whiskies, single malt blended whiskey makes a good percentage of that. Also, Japan was top 4, so you could imagine the whiskey from Japan is also showing a good share of that. Spirit has the highest import value for China, followed by wine. And brandy is the largest imported spirit, accounting for 68% of the spirit's import value. All right, I'll stop sharing screen, and I think Richard, you can present going from here.
Yes, sure. Thank you. So digging into the wine trends in China now. So first and foremost, of course, and it has been the case since quite the beginning, the red wine is drastically being the main type of still wine that is consumed in China. 90% of the respondents that we interrogated stated that they have drinks red wine. It's really the main type of still wine, and most of all, it's really important within the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Within the Tier 1 cities that are more matured, of course, red wine is still dominant. But what we can see, and from also the younger generation, is that there is a lot of diversification. People tend to want to try new things, new type of wine, really digging into this new experience. That's why, for example, the white wine, now the type of wine, it's 35% that has been consumed by white consumers, which is really more compared to the previous year. We can see also that the champagne and sparkling wines trying to get a lot of attention, especially for the 2 past years. For example, in Shanghai, it has been quite booming. And among the young consumers, this is really important because it's them who has the tendency to talk about it, to display their social network, their publication, and really to make more awareness and reputation about those wines. So even though for sure red wine is still the most important, it's quite interesting to see the evolution and the diversification within the market, and most of all within the Tier 1 cities. Within the red wine consumption, we have also analyzed the different trends that there is in terms of consumption within the social media. So what we have seen is that there are many occasions that are required to drink red wines, but the most important one are moments that you can share within your family, within your relatives, moments to enjoy life, have an experience such as vacation, parties, dates being the top 3. The top 4, the number 4 is gift giving, because it remains a huge tradition within the Chinese consumers. They are really willing to give some really nice bottle of wine during seasonal moments of the year. It remains really important. And when the dinners are already fifth, and that shows also the trend that people are more likely to drink into bars, come into social moments, to share their wines, and also to make their publication within social media. Speaking of social media, what we have assessed as well is that there is a huge trend of getting information within the new social media that are Douyin and Little Red Book, and also through all the influencer marketing that has been booming. So those have been booming for like many years, and especially during the pandemic, people tend to want to know more about the wines, about its origin, their values, where they are coming from, and all those information, they can get it from influencers, whether they are professionals or key opinion leaders or even consumers, and try to get their and make their choice to have their purchasing moments. For example, 2 months ago, I've been giving a live streaming on Douyin, and I was quite impressed by the number of interaction, people asking questions to get to know more about the wines, to really get into the trends, and being able to make their choice, knowing the different possibilities they can have. This is also reflected in the purchasing the purchasing channels that has quite evolved during the last years. Indeed, before the pandemic, the offline channels were largely predominating, and with a kind of consistency. For example, between 2017 and 2019, there were only 5% more people buying online. But we can see that from 2019, it has been increasing a lot, being almost the double of wine sales through the online channels. So showing that there is really a great mirroring between the fact that Chinese consumers, they are getting to online channels to get their information, and then put their purchasing moments within those online channels as well. So those also are really important with the young consumers. So people born after the year 2000, they really prefers to gain the information through live streaming, to do their purchasing moments online, and they are really using new media to get this information, to have those lifestyle moments, and to provide to their network, to their community, those moments, and share it with them. Another trend that is quite important, and Min talked about it in the introduction, is that wine has also kind of benefits for the Chinese consumers, is that it is kind of low alcohol if we are facing the strong alcohol such as Baijiu. Thus, the consumers, they are willing to look for opportunities to drink low alcohol wine, and to go to wine bars when you can have only 1 glass or 1 or 2 glass, and not buy the bottles, which like reduce the consumption, is to their opinion better for the health, and then gain in popularity. So this trend is, of course, important within the young consumers, but also we have seen that the segment of 36-45 and 46-55 years old people are really also getting more and more importance about this trend, and this willingness to drink wine, good wine, and better for health. So as you can see, the health is like the top 1 reason to drink wine. 54% attending to person that has been interrogated, before like lifestyle or even taste features that remain, of course, very important, but will go a little bit behind. This is also a great opportunity for the low alcohol wine, such as rosé wine or white wine, And of course, rosé wine is really a minor still wine consumption for now. But through those new trends and also the publication that we can see most of all in Xiaohongshu, where the lifestyle side and design is really important, those will gain more and more popularity, and this is really a great opportunity they can rely on, and they can switch. We have many professionals that we have interrogated saying that their consumers, they are asking for more health conscious drinking, for low alcohol, and then they are considering more and more those kind of well, the wine in general for sure, but also new opportunities to have low alcohol wines. As for the imported wine situation for now, so since the pandemic and also a couple of issues that are happening in the wine industry in China, such as a lot of storage from distributors and importers, there have been economic downturns for sure for the past years in wine imports. So the value and the volume of the imports in China has been lowering a lot. Indeed, especially for a couple of countries, for one country particularly, which is Australia, because they were facing major new taxes compared to the advantages they have so far. So this has been a good advantage for other countries, such as France and Chile, but it also doesn't hide the fact that the importation has been diminishing a lot, and the situation this year in 2022 is also in this trend. However, we expect that with a new policy going back little by little to normal and new opportunities upcoming, these trends will go sideways, and we can expect a new increase in the importation of wine within China. So for now, the main exporter country in China would be France in value with 70 and 53 million US dollars. But another actor that has been taking advantage of this change of paradigm for the Australian wine is Chile. Chile is really the new face of wine for a couple of years, because they have supplemented Australia with good value for money wines with large. Also, they were and they also are the largest bulkest wine supplier of China, with like 58% of 90.91% market share, which is huge. And they are representing a good value for money that you can buy easily because they have zero tariff and affordable wines you can drink on a daily basis. However, this was the strategy for the beginning, because they were penetrating the market and they were looking to have a good basis to build their reputation in China, and to build also a strong volume and value of sales within the country. However, for a couple of years now, they are really in the trend of getting more and more premium. So showcasing that Chile is not only affordable wines and good value for money, but that they can also develop with great natural factors and human factors a premium wine that can compete with some of the greatest wine we can find on the other countries. The advantage also is that they still have the zero taxes. So it's really a good argument for them, and the way they have chosen to display that and to communicate that with the distributors, with the importers and the consumers is really a good way, because now they are gaining more and more popularity and reputation for that. Now that we're talking of the imported wine, it's also interesting to have a small focus on the Chinese wines, the Chinese domestic production. So those are facing quite challenges for the past couple of years, which involved a decreasing of production from 2016 to 2020. The problem being low yield, high cost, and also structural problem with human factors and natural factors being quite some challenges for them. The five regions of China that are producing wine. The 5 main ones are Ningxia, Hebei, Shandong, Xinjiang, and Yunnan. And the domestic wine production decreased from 11.3 million hectoliters in 2016 to 4.13 million hectoliters in 2020, representing minus 80%, which is quite huge and can be explained because compared to imported wine, those human factors such as the wine grape, the climate, and the soils are really more difficult to appreciate, to take care, with also less history and know-how compared to old wine countries such as the one from the old world and also from the new world that are more and more experienced. They have also a limited number of wine offering. So all these arguments make it that it's more difficult for them to produce wine, to sustain their domestic production. However, that being said, one thing that is really interesting as well is that some of the fine wine in the Chinese domestic production managed to have a fair audience that is really interesting into those wines. So with the Chinese consumers' behavior evolving throughout the years, they are more and more willing to try domestic production, domestic wines, because they want to have a kind of national self-confidence. They want to be proud of the domestic wine. And also they are also conscious that even though there is less domestic production, that there have been also medium to entry wines that were not maybe satisfactory for them. They have also a couple of Chinese fine wines that are doing really good work, and that is a great opportunity for them to drink local wines. One example is the Chateau Shengyu, who has switched their communication drastically and really turned with the online live streaming and digital tools to be able to communicate to all the young consumers, to the fine wine consumers, and targeting them to increase their sales and taking advantage of the situation of the pandemic, where people would like to buy more wines through their flagship stores and online. So this is an example of one of the most important, but you have also lots of small wineries in China that are really targeting new consumers that are looking for new experiences. And this self-confidence and self-willingness of drinking national wines is becoming more and more important for the consumers. One case study that is quite interesting to follow, and as I was talking about Australian wine and their taxes, this is a really important example, is the case of Penfold. So Penfold is obviously a based Australian brand from Treasury Wine Estates. And with the taxis coming into China, one of the questions was, how can we make sure that we continue all the work we have built to make this brand successful, popular among the Chinese consumers, with this constraint that we cannot sell any more Australian wine in China. So they decided to switch and to do full localization into their strategy of marketing and communication. They started to buy some vineyard into China to make some production, to be associated with the China Alcoholic Drink Association, and to build all their digital ecosystem to focus on this localization of the production and make Penfold not only an Australian brand, but a wide brand, promoting their own values and also being able to transfer their values to the local vineyard they are taking off. That results in the production of one wine called Tribute 177, which is a wine that is really interesting to follow, because they started with kind of an entry sales point that is quite okay, good for the young consumers. It's a good trigger to make them interesting about the wine and about the brands, between 140 and 240 a bottle. And then what they have done is that this wine produced in China is also exclusive to the Chinese market. So that gives a really important brand positioning and brand positioning toward localization and interest toward the Chinese consumers. To focus on that, they of course create all a digital ecosystem with mini program, with live streaming for online sales, but also local events in exhibition, in a big announcement with the exclusive launch in China, being able to really reach the consumers and making them interested not only about the origin of the brand that was at the beginning and before the tax is the case, but really about the brand by itself. And this is one of the main insights that we figured with this, is that the brand building is crucial. The origin of the product, of course, is important to get to know the wine, to get to know the values, but getting awareness with the brand make that you can bring like visibility with pull effect to penetrate the market. You can also switch and take care of any situation you can have, because it has allowed to do a reborn of the iconic Australian brand to a Chinese DNA and like a more global brand, bringing their own values and their own know-how within the Chinese territory, but also to bring through this new DNA and this new strategy a trigger to the wine consumers that will be the new generation that will have more and more interests for the wines, and then being the prescribers, the ambassadors, not only of wines, but also on the brands, on Penfolds, and really building loyalty and advocacy around this. So now I would like to take Min over with the whiskey and brandy trends.
Thank you, Richard. Now I'll talk about the whiskey and brandy trends in China. So as you may know, when we talk about brandy, everyone would associate or resonate cognac. So cognac is definitely the most exquisite, also expensive type of brandy from the region of Cognac, France. And what is interesting at this point is that the Japanese whiskey is actually taking a good share of the whiskey market share in China. Some of you may have heard of Suntory whiskey, the Hibiki range, which is the blended whiskey, Yamazaki, which is the single malt whiskey. They are becoming popular, not just in China, but globally and especially in Asia as well. Although they adapt the Scottish style technique, they're still developing their own production technique, which makes it quite unique compared to the Scottish whiskey. As for cognac, it's often consumed during dinner and other social events. So it's quite similar how you drink cognac in Europe as well. So after a meal or during the meal, and usually mixed with ice or as cocktail. Chinese consumers, they prefer high-end cognac as it gives you a bit more social status. So it's more drink between a business and social events. And also its premium packaging is also very important in China. And as to some of the top brands here, like Martell, Hennessy, are the ones very renowned in China. And as we mentioned, the top three brands of the brandies are Hennessy, Remy Martin, Martell in China. But there are some other brands that are also quite popular, like Camus. Some of the more premium ones could be Courvoisier, Polignac, and so on and so on. In terms of, I think some of you guys maybe already know about the different class of brandies. But basically, VS is 2 years in the cask. VSOP is 4 years in the cask. And XO, basically the most expensive one, is 20 years in the cask. And basically, like VSOP or VS those are the more affordable lines. So they are mostly consumed in KTVs or bars, whereas the more expensive ones could be consumed at more high-end hotels or private clubs. But nevertheless, still Chinese consumers, they still purchase these premium bottles of whiskey or brandy to be also drank at home. You could imagine, I mean, like, if any of your audience are in Shanghai, if you go to those whiskey bars or hotel bars, a glass of very nice single malt whiskey would be somewhere between like 100 or 150 yuan. So you could buy those nice bottles at home and drink it at your convenience. So a lot of consumers are still drinking at home. The latest trend we noticed in China, especially in Shanghai, in tier 1 cities, is that whiskey bars are also becoming a new trend. I think at least the ones that I visit in Shanghai, there's more than 10 whiskey bars. And it's not just a place where you just go to get drunk, but it's a place where you go to learn about it and to be educated. And a lot of young consumers who never tried whiskey would go there, and basically the bartender will tell you what's your preference and give you the whiskey based on the types of whiskey they prefer and the flavor they like. Yeah, and as I just mentioned before, brandy and whiskey are considered as a status symbol in China. So usually consumed by the wealthier consumers, they have their unique values to Chinese people. So for example, brandy is an important symbol of friends, and it does have a lot of emotional value, most notably linked to romance. So where we did some social listening, and we looked at some of the top keywords that are associated with brandy on social media. So this was from Xiaohongshu and other social media platforms. So you can see that parties, bars, vacations, dates were some of the top topics associated with brandy. Whereas for whiskey, let's say a bit more, let's say a business or a bit more high-end image is associated with whiskey. As you can see, as I mentioned, a lot of whiskey bars are popping up. So whiskey bars showed a lot in social media. Yeah, we did a bit of case study and we looked at Macallan. If you're a whiskey lover, everybody knows Macallan, single malt whiskey from Scotland. And although Macallan has a very good status and awareness in China, they're aiming to maintain and enhance their premium brand image, not just by their usual official accounts on Xiaohongshu or Weibo, but they're doing a lot of collaborations with lifestyle KOLs or KOCs, key opinion consumers. So as you can see, basically their official accounts, they don't have that many engagements, they don't have that many followers, but the ones where they're leveraging KOCs or KOLs, you can see it has a very good exposure. And it depends on which type of KOC, KOLs you collaborate with. It has to, the contents they are doing has to match with your branding and your products. And not just online, not just digital things they're doing. They also did in last year, December, they held a very big offline event in Shanghai. The exhibition was called the Macallan Experience. So yeah, a lot of digital and offline things they're doing to sustain their premium position in China, and as well as in the whiskey scene. Also, something interesting they were doing is that they were, one of their main marketing campaign and content was emphasizing sustainability. So sustainability in the eyes of Asian or especially Chinese consumers, it's, I think still a lot of education needed to the Chinese consumers when it comes to sustainability. But to really deliver this message, they did a lot of work such as doing IP collaborations. They did partnership with Bentley Motors to come up with a innovative limited edition packaging, as well as trying to give more captivating storytelling about the brand and how much effort they're putting into sustainability, such as using recyclable packaging and so on. So for Macallan, the key challenges for them are the favoritism of domestic products, emerging local brands, and rising RTD alcohol category. But some opportunities that we see is that not many alcohol brands are emphasizing on sustainability. So this is, I think, the gap that they were able to identify and penetrate. And also opportunities for doing co-branding with other brands to keep the premium image, such as collaborating with Bentley Motors and so on. And I think this one, Richard, you wanted to talk about it?
Yes, so for cognac, we have been working for a couple of years now with the National Office of Cognac based there. And what we figured is that even though the spirits for sure is dominated by Baijiu, cognac is the leading imported spirits in China and has a real importance, but the most important that they have for now is more for business, personal banquets, and gift giving. So the challenge that we have with that has been to first make consumers aware of the product by itself, the know-how behind the importance on the GI, the geographical indication, and what it implies, but also to make it popular through the new generation and to, while staying with the importance of the current generation drinking cognac and making them more aware of all the possibility that they have to drink, except for the big brands, but also globally with all the house that is available in China, and also for the new generation to find some new ways, entertaining, living new experience ways of drinking cognac and discovering these products. So we have developed 360 channel campaign with a ground basis that was merely important for lots of years and is still very important, is working with the CHR channel, the HoReCa, because those sommelier bartenders, they are the first prescribers, the ambassadors that will use the drink, the cognac, that will make their consumers learn about it, and that can also provide them insights to guide them to buy the products for their home, for drinking with friends and relatives. So that's why we have started with training, masterclasses with sommelier, and also I've started to work with bartenders from mixologists to do some training and even competition to give a sense of entertainment and organization. Those have been, of course, supported and amplified by a lot of digital. So we have created WeChat accounts, we have created mini programs and e-learning to be able to give all the tools to people to get to know the product, to be able to enjoy it by knowing the panel of flavors, of aromas that are available within those different products that are cognac, because cognac being a GI, but you have many different brands, many types, as Min said, between VS, VSOP, XO. So it was very important to communicate about that and to add also some public relation campaign through influence and media to have continually a media exposure and workshop and press trip to showcase the universe of cognac and what it is about. So those questions are really about immersion, getting the consumers to have experiences, and bigger brands such as Rémy Martel have taken care also of those activation by building their own immersive activities, whether they are online or offline, partnering also with different groups such as MBA or for brands. So all of these to provide really a feeling of cognac, a universe, a proper universe, and providing a sense of guidance to the consumers. So for this, what we the key insight that we can have on the next slide is that the challenge was the current concession of pardons, as I tell you, because it was really business centric. But the opportunity is that even though cognac is the first imported spirits in China, there is a huge room to play and huge opportunities still to develop, and a channel which is the HoReCa that is finally the key distribution channel, because they will guide the consumers. They will give this bar culture, this cognac culture, by maintaining, referencing the community of professionals, and also providing all the information toward the consumers. Those consumers are merely important, and that's why it's for us a must to add to this connection to HoReCa, a visibility through online, and reach out end consumers with influence, social media, and tools that will make them aware of the product and be able to really appropriate themselves and localize their own consumption of this beverage.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Next topic will be the liquor trends in China. So for liquor, as I mentioned before, don't be mistaken, Baijiu dominates the liquor market in China. But still, let's call the Western liquors, they still take up a portion of the alcohol drinks revenue, but by a very, very small percentage. We mainly looked at three liquors, so vodka, rum, and gin. And no surprise that vodka is taking the lead. And what is interesting is that tequila is also gaining popularity. The drink recorded year-on-year growth of 162%. So it's the highest growth among the imported spirits. So some of the major trends would be that, especially in tier 1 cities and also in Shanghai, there's a lot of bars and clubs, and basically you can kind of guess where a lot of Chinese young consumers where they're consuming these type of liquors. And also rum, the image of rum is also changing in China. So I think in the past, basically, I think the only rum that everyone knew was the Bacardi rum, and it was considered as a cheap mixer. So basically, you go to a bar or a club and you ask for rum and Coke. But lately, I think Chinese consumers are also being more educated. They learn more about alcohol, so they know about rum as well. So they're purchasing a bit more premium rum as well, which are the bit more the darker rums. As for the other liquor, as I mentioned, vodka is the most consumed Western liquor besides Baijiu in China. Currently, China imports their vodka from 40 countries, and with Sweden being the winner. So we looked at share of consumption by volume and value, and basically absolute vodka from Sweden was the winner. Other countries that did well from Russia, Russian vodka, as well as from other European countries. Fruity cocktails are becoming popular to Chinese consumers. I think mentioned before in the first few slides that basically the young consumers, the females, were driving the market. And when we looked at Xiaohongshu and we looked at what are the most mentioned cocktails mentioned in the post, so Long Island iced tea, mojito, Mai Tai, tequila sunrise. So most of drinks are combining with rum, vodka, tequila, and so on and so on. And also the big trend that is a bit trending in China in terms of the offline stores, offline retails in HoReCa scene is that the liquid learning. So people didn't know about it before, but they want to learn more about where the brand, the history of those liquors, learn about the heritage, how the drinks are made, the recipes, and so on and so on.
Thanks. One spirit we haven't talked about, but it's quite interesting to follow as well, is the case of gin. So gin is one kind of interesting spirit because basically you can make gin everywhere. You take some alcohol and you distill some botanicals, and you can provide, you can have your spirits. So this spirit is very flexible and has reached 3.1 million liters in 2021 in China, with an increase of 29% from 2020 and 20% in 2021. So this the main brands that are popular within China for now are mostly I would say UK ones, with Beefeater, Tanqueray, Gordon's, Hendrix, Bombay Sapphire. But this is a leading craft spirits revolution in China, in Asia, and most of it in China, because lots of brands are decided to localize their recipes and to make their own gin that will match the taste of the consumers here. For example, in the next slide, what we can see is that there is like local brands such as Peddler Gins or Crispman Pogolins using Chinese botanicals to answer the demand of the Chinese consumers, to have a spirits with those botanicals that will answer their taste, and while keeping their own values and their brand values. Hendrix Gin, for example, has done some limited editions such as the Midsummer Solstice that resonates a lot well with the Chinese consumers, and especially the female drinkers, which we have seen is one of the top raising consumers and targets that is buying wine and spirits in China. So by tweaking those ingredients, they are able to provide new flavors, new experience, new opportunities, and those new products, all those brands, they are able to advertise them through different channels. One of them being, as for cognac, reaching all the HoReCa channels that are the bartenders, of course, bringing new cocktail mixologists. As we can see on the next slide, there is peddlers working with lots of bars from the world's top 50 bars. Some other brands such as Crimson Pangolin, they are organizing competition between bartenders to make them create original and new experiences around their products. Whereas other brands such as Monkey 47 or Four Pillars, they are doing masterclasses, tasting events, all those kind of events that manage consumers to have a try of the product, to get familiar with it, and maybe after to reach some social media, social networks and influencers to get more information and to reassure them about the products and getting more familiar with it. That's why, for example, Morpho Elena, it was a gin introduced by Lady Penguin and created by a South African gin brand. So that was very interesting because they are using both all the channels to create a product, to advertise it with the key opinion leaders that will provide this advocacy, and then convert all the consumers to consume their gin, which was also really interesting because a deep color of blue, and was very nice to discover with a very reasonable price and attractive price, which gives the young consumers a trigger to try the product, to advocate it, and then to enter into their daily life. So from this global spirits case study, what we can find out is that first there is a craze of customization, but also localization, whether it is for the product by itself. So as we can see, for example, Penfolds localized production or gin using botanicals. It could also be by bridging the values with the values of the country and bringing the imported products within the Chinese territory to make sense and give a new experience and new entertaining way for the Chinese consumers. So for us, the marketing is quite the key, because reaching new media, doing some content strategy and online marketing will allow to have a first glimpse of those products and of those brands toward the consumers, then leverage some word of mouth through the key opinion leaders, their key opinion consumers, and creating a unique brand identity that will be attractive for the consumer and will make them want to either drink the product within a bar, which is a wine bar, a mixologist bar, depending on the wine and spirits, but then drive to purchase, and they make them buy it, whether it is online, which is becoming more and more important, or offline through the, I would say, the mainstream channels.
Thank you, Richard. Next topic, we'd like to talk about the alcohol pop market. So some of you may know what this is. So basically, we call it the RTD, ready to drink segments. It shows substantial potential for growth. So with a low ABV, so that's alcohol by volume, that's under 15%, and usually sweet and fruity flavors are becoming more popular among young Chinese consumers. Not really my type of alcohol. It gives you a lot of hangover for me personally, but it's becoming a trend, especially among young consumers. So based on our Tmall data here, we have it's mostly made up of first-tier city women aged between 18 and 34. Also, some interesting demographic profiles are that they're young white-collar workers, sophisticated moms, senior middle class, and Gen Z. And I think if you're in China, if you've been to any convenience stores or supermarkets, hypermarkets, you probably came across Rio. So it comes in cans or bottles. So usually very fruity, like peach flavor, plum flavor, and so on and so on. I think they're the dominant player in China. Now, finally, and at last, Baijiu, the dominating segment in China. So despite its popularity, the production is decreasing. So the main reason was that the government cracked down in 2012. The production of Baijiu has decreased. So why was there this crackdown in the first place? Because if you know Baijiu, you probably heard of Maotai, the most famous popular Baijiu from China. And basically Maotai was commonly used as a currency in bribes. So basically that's why there was the crackdown. And there's also a famous phrase saying, those who buy Maotai never drink it. While those who drink it never buy it. So you can imagine it's frequently used as in bribes back in the days. So you can see in the trends that the production was cut short in 2018. But nevertheless, Baijiu sales revenue have been on upward trend starting from 2018. And in 2020, 50% of domestic Baijiu production comes from Sichuan province, and the rest from Guizhou province, I believe. And some of you, if you know Baijiu, if some of you may not know Baijiu too well, but basically there are four main types of Baijiu. There's one called sauce aroma, which is the most popular one. So that's and it's called jiangxiang. And there's strong aroma, nongxiang, and that makes of Maotai. And there's two types which are relevantly easy to drink. So one is called light aroma, which is qingxiang, and fourth is rice aroma, mixiang. So these are relevantly, in terms of ABV, it's roughly the same, 40 to 60%. But in terms of aroma, it's easier to handle. So the Baijiu market faces multiple challenges. So firstly, government crackdown was one. Secondly, the pandemic, because Baijiu is usually consumed at a family or business gathering. So limitations to that had had a slowed down growth, and also a lack of interest from young consumers. So basically, as we've been talking about this topic, basically young consumers, they prefer wines, beers, cocktails, Western spirits. Like you're not gonna go to a club and bar and have a Baijiu, right? So that's the major trend. And also, of course, the big Baijiu players like Maotai or the relevantly affordable one, Zhang Baishang, they're trying to do a bit more different approach, coming out with lower ABV as well as some more fruity flavors to appeal to the younger consumers. As well as for import, China's import on Baijiu, other big countries are basically Hong Kong and Taiwan. But basically, as I mentioned, from Sichuan or Guizhou is most of the local production in China. So what is Baijiu market leaders trying to do to overcome these challenges? So Maotai basically, what they try to do was they try to come up with a different approach. So they came up with a Baijiu flavored ice cream in 2022. I think they just have two flavors, original and vanilla flavor. And just a warning, it does have small alcohol percentage. I think it's about 2 to 3%. So they made it clear to the consumers, don't eat the ice cream and drive, or don't make the younger consumers eat it. But they're trying a different approach to make it go a bit more viral and make it accessible to the younger consumers. And also, because Baijiu is mostly, as I mentioned before, it's mostly consumed by older generations. So in terms of age demographics, average drinker of Baijiu is about 45 years old. 70s, the people born in 70s make up about 40%. The born in 80s and 90s make up about like 25%. So basically, they need to target more younger audience. So now they're leveraging the top social media platforms like Douyin or Xiaohongshu to better advertise, making more younger contents, younger product lines, younger alcohol percentage, more fruity flavors, try to appeal to these consumers. Okay, yeah, now that sums up our webinar. And before we go to our Q&A session, we'll have just a quick introduction of our firm and then Sopexa. So as I mentioned before, Daxue Consulting, we are a market research company in China. We focus basically mostly with projects within China market. We have our office in Shanghai. We've done about now there's about 400 plus clients with 600 projects in the past 10 years. So we deal with a lot of clients from the West as well as clients from China. So dealing with projects such as market expansion, market sizing, market scaling, finding potential distributors, finding online TPs, doing consumer research, and so on. So most of our consulting is research driven. So using traditional methodologies to give you strategic recommendations. So those of you who have projects or like to inquire for market research or strategic consulting type of management consulting projects in China, yeah, do scan us, do join us on WeChat or LinkedIn or follow us on newsletter. Richard.
Yes, and thank you, Min. So yes, on our side, Sopexa, we are a communication agency dedicated to food and beverage. So we are part of one French group called Hopscotch Group. So our aim is really to be a global expert of communication with local culture. So bridging the brand value, brand identity of the local of the imported products we are promoting into the local market we are living. We are not network agency of more than 34 agencies throughout the world, with more than 250 international talents. We provide activities on the next slide of from creative strategy, diversify events, digital and influence. So providing a hand-to-hand communication campaign that will make you grow your reputation awareness, either on a B2B level, reaching professionals with a huge network of more than 30,000 professionals that we have on the Chinese territory, or on the consumer side through consumer communication campaigns with events, influence, or digital, where we have a network of more than 7,000 media contact influencers we are working with. So we are really dedicated to imported products, promoting more than 12 origin countries in China, and we provide all those expertise. So if you want to have more information about our communication agency, some insight we have provided, and best cases we have on our WeChat account, you can scan the WeChat account or contact me directly through my email address, and seeing our LinkedIn, where we have it's our global group LinkedIn, when you will have all communication campaigns all over the world that we are providing. Thank you very much to all that follow us for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. I see that there is only one question for now. It's about the presentation. So I believe there will be a link from which you will be able to download the report that will be provided later on.
Yep. We have another question. What is the average bottle price for wines sold in social media marketplaces?
So for the average bottle of wine, it will be on the social media marketplaces. So it will be pretty much the entry or medium entry price, per se, 150 to 250 RMB for now. Mostly the premium wines are still a lot sold directly through distributors channels, importers channels, whereas the online consumption is more for the entry point and young consumers.
We had another question. With the Baijiu trends down, do you think there's potential of Baijiu used as a base spirits in other drinks? Yes, I think, as I mentioned, there's 4 types of Baijiu. The saucy one, heavy one. I think basically the light one, or the rice aroma, so qingxiang and mixiang, I think those could be used as base spirits in other drinks. I haven't seen in a retail like Horeca that they're doing it, but as a product development, that could be the next step. I mean, we see plum, peach base, or plum flavor Baijiu. So that could be the foreseeable trend. Another question is Douyin effective for sales of wine? Is there restriction on alcohol content?
So Douyin is actually restrictive on the alcohol content, because, for example, when you are doing a video or a live streaming, you cannot drink directly, of course, the alcohol beverage. So you have to go off camera and then go back. So I've made a live streaming a couple of months ago, so it was really educational, and then there has been a sales-oriented live streaming right after. For now, the sales channels on Douyin are quite restrictive, and I won't say it is the main channel that is really useful, but Douyin is really efficient to provide educational content, information about the origin, the know-how. So providing a couple of videos to really more drive about awareness, visibility, and reputation, rather than doing sales directly. Like, I remember for the live streaming I've made after the sales live streaming, I had a couple of sales. Of course, it was like a slight success, but it's of course less effective for now than other channels that are more developed and intended to be driven for that. Douyin for me stay on the reputation awareness, and that's a great tool to drive people to know your product, and then after to make them go toward your preferred e-commerce platform.
I think we'll take one final question, which was, that Baijiu industry is trying to internationalize. So how was that going? I think I can answer this. So as you mentioned, as I mentioned before, Moutai is the only brand that's recognized globally, internationally, and it's also state-owned enterprise. So what they did recently, I think was maybe earlier this year or last year. So they came up with a new product just to target the international market. But for now, as far as I know, and as far as the amount of voice we captured online, it's not big. So I think still a lot of work that needs to be done. As you mentioned before, it's aside from, because Moutai it falls in the spiced aroma segment of the Baijiu category, and it's basically it's difficult to be mixed with any other drinks, and unless you are a Chinese food lover, it's difficult to pair with any other types of food as well. So I think they need to do a bit more education of like how it could be food paired, and also how it could be mixed. But basically, maybe not suitable for Moutai, maybe another type of less accessible ones. Okay, so that's all for today. We ran a bit over time, but thank you everybody for joining today's webinar. It was a pleasure to be able to present, and have a good day, everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Richard. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Min.